Usually, when we think of a classic fantasy barbarian, there's this expectation of just absolute unthinking chaos,
Oh,
right?
for sure. Just total mindless fury.
Exactly. Like you point them at a problem, they become this human wrecking ball. They scream, smash everything into kindling, and then, they just wait for the dust to settle.
Yeah, it's a very blunt force approach, a very comforting
Yeah.
binary way of looking at a problem, really.
Right.
Nuance is just completely abandoned in favor of sheer destructive power. I mean, we naturally gravitate toward archetypes that are predictable and easy to categorize.
But today we are looking at a masterclass in character design that just completely swaps out that massive wrecking ball for, like, a surgical scalpel.
A very fast surgical scalpel.
Yes. We are tearing into this character study of a warrior named Val from a deeply detailed document simply titled Barbarian.pdf.
It is a phenomenal read.
It really is. And for this deep dive, I need you to forget literally everything you know about that dumb screaming barbarian trope.
Throw it right out the window.
Because Val is built around a single, tightly defined philosophical concept, and that is momentum.
Momentum. Every single mechanic, every roleplay choice, every battlefield tactic serves this one unifying idea of forward inevitability.
Okay, let's unpack this, because before we evaluate her actual physical capabilities on a character sheet, we really have to look at the psychology that drives the machine,
Yes,
right?
we do. And conceptually, Val is categorized as the Relentless Wind.
The Relentless Wind, I love that.
Right. Her rage, it isn't a wildfire or an uncontrolled temper tantrum. It is focused acceleration.
It's discipline.
Highly disciplined intensity. She operates on this relentless climb mentality where she basically weaponizes momentum itself as her primary tool for survival.
Yeah, and when I was absorbing her profile, the image that kept surfacing wasn't the Incredible Hulk mindlessly smashing a city block.
No, not at all.
It was a high-speed downhill skier.
I did a perfect analogy.
Right, because when you are bombing down a mountain at 80 miles an hour, one wrong twitch, one slight miscalculation of the terrain, and it is an absolute disaster.
It's lethal.
Exactly. But you aren't out of control. Your pure velocity is your control.
Yes, the speed generates the stability.
But I do have a serious pushback on this image of a hyper-disciplined, hyper-focused, tactical mind.
Oh.
Yeah, looking at her raw attributes in the source, she has an intelligence score of 8.
Right, the infamous INT8.
I mean, in most contexts, a below-average intelligence stat mechanically dictates that the character is, well, stupid.
Usually.
So if her rage is so laser-focused and tactical, how does a supposedly dull mind operate a biological machine that requires that much precision?
What's fascinating here is that the design explicitly redefines what that numerical value actually represents.
Okay, how so?
An intelligence of 8 in Val's context does not denote a lack of cognitive function or spatial awareness or street smarts.
Okay.
It represents her aggressive rejection of overthinking.
Ah, so it's a choice.
Exactly. Her core philosophy dictates that thinking is actively useless if it delays necessary action. She is fundamentally anti-paralysis.
Wow. So the moment you stop to analyze all the tiny variables of the mountain, you lose your speed and the mountain wins.
That is the exact psychology at play, and we see this tethered directly to her moral alignment, too.
Right. She's categorized as lawful and dense.
Or neutral-driven, yeah.
Yeah.
She deeply values structure, efficiency, cause and effect, but she completely rejects weak authority, stagnation, or any arbitrary rules designed to just slow people down.
Which leads to her personal code.
Yes, she operates under a strict code. I obey what deserves to be obeyed.
That is just such a cold, incredible line. I obey what deserves to be obeyed.
It's brilliant.
It feeds perfectly into what the document describes as her mountain runner archetype.
Because her entire worldview dictates that life is simply a series of mountains to be summited.
Right. Every physical confrontation, every political obstacle, it's all just another ascent.
Enemies aren't even really people to her.
No, they're just rough terrain to be navigated.
Her internal mantra is literally, I don't fight you. I outpace you until you break.
I outpace you until you break. Man. Which naturally dictates how this internal downhill skier philosophy translates into actual physical reality on the battlefield.
Right, when we look at her level 5 build.
Exactly. At level 5, her build choices are just ruthlessly optimized to serve this concept.
Every single point has a purpose.
Here's where it gets really interesting, because there are no wasted mechanics. She is a versatile human with an athlete background.
Fitting.
And her core stats are perfectly stacked. 16s across the board in strength, dexterity, and constitution.
And we have to remember, these aren't just abstract numbers on a page.
No.
This represents a biological engine built for one highly specific purpose. It is the physical manifestation of force, precision, and endurance in equal harmonious measure.
There are no magical gimmicks here.
None. No divine birthrights. This level of physical capability is purely earned through muscular discipline and repetitive stress.
And the defining mechanical choice at this stage is her level 4 feat, which is mobile.
A crucial choice.
Yeah, physically, this alters her entire presence on the battlefield. Right. It adds 10 feet to her base movement speed, allows her to completely ignore difficult terrain when she dashes, and crucially, she doesn't trigger opportunity attacks from enemies she strikes at.
She is literally slipping past enemy blades without ever breaking her stride.
But I have to push back again here.
Go for it.
Specifically regarding her subclass choice. She takes the Elk Totem,
Right.
which biochemically alters her rage to grant her this massive explosion of movement speed.
Yes, on a 15 feet.
But mathematically speaking, the famous choice, the one almost every single optimizer takes, is the Bear Totem.
The infamous Bear Totem, yeah.
Because it essentially halves all incoming damage from almost every source. If she's charging headfirst into a fortress of armed enemies, wouldn't gaining near invincibility make vastly more tactical sense than just running slightly faster?
I see where you're coming from, but putting a Bear Totem on Val would be like welding heavy tank armor plating onto a Formula One car.
Oh, that's a great point.
You would completely ruin the very thing that makes the machine effective in the first place.
Because she isn't a tank.
Exactly. The analysis makes it adamant that she is not a traditional tank meant to stand in the mud and just absorb punishment.
Right.
She is defined as an initiator and disruptor, a tactical pressure unit.
So the speed is her survival.
Yes, the Elk Totem redefines survival as speed. Her rage isn't a panic button to soak up damage. It is her consciously committing to the next step and refusing to let the environment dictate her pace.
So her tactical loop looks entirely different from, say, a standard heavily armored frontliner holding a shield wall.
Completely different. Her loop is defined as engage, strike, reposition.
So she uses that extreme speed and the mobile feat to just completely bypass the enemy's heavily armored front line.
She ignores the massive, terrifying threat entirely.
Right, she just collapses the structural weak points, the spellcasters, the archers, the commanders hiding in the back.
And by infiltrating that deep that quickly, she forces the entire enemy formation to turn around and react to her.
Which generates massive chaos in their ranks.
Exactly. Which simultaneously creates these wide-open lanes for her allies, like a rogue or a wizard, to exploit from total safety.
Because she dictates the tempo. She never waits to evaluate what the enemy is doing. She forces the enemy to play her game on her clock.
Always.
But, you know, a truly compelling character study has to examine more than just a damage output equation.
Absolutely.
A major issue in tabletop role-playing is this personality split players do. You have a character who is a ruthless, brilliant tactician in combat, but the moment they step into a social situation, the player suddenly turns them into a goofy, indecisive conversationalist.
It's jarring when that happens.
It really is. But Val remains completely singular across every pillar of interaction.
And the unification of her mechanics and her social role play is really what elevates this from a solid build to just a masterclass in cohesive design.
Let's talk about how she handles exploration first.
Sure. In environment traversal, she is labeled the Pathmaker.
Right.
Out in the wilderness, she doesn't wander aimlessly or consult ancient maps. She physically tests the routes.
She just goes.
She climbs the sheer cliff face first, anchors the ropes for her team, and operates on the core belief that mentorship is muscle. She leads strictly by doing.
And socially, she operates as the quiet force.
Yes.
Because she possesses a charisma score of 10. She isn't naturally charming. She isn't a flashy performer.
She certainly isn't the designated diplomat trying to negotiate complex geopolitical treaties.
No, not at all. Yet she commands the room anyway. Because sheer undeniable momentum has its own kind of gravity.
It really does. People listen to her because she cuts through the noise.
It makes me think of that one brutally honest friend you have when a group is trying to make a plan.
Oh, we all have one of those.
Right. Like there are 6 of you and you've been debating for an hour about where to go eat.
Just agonizing indecision.
Yeah. Everyone's like, I don't know. What do you want? Is it too late for pizza?
And no one wants to make the call.
Exactly. And then that one friend just stands up, grabs their coat and says, we're going for tacos. Follow me.
and instantly the tension vanishes.
The problem is solved because someone finally cut through the fluff and generated forward motion.
It's so true.
Val's actual quotes from the profile regarding social situations are literally, "We don't have time for this, and we move now."
If we connect this to the bigger picture, that social directness actually masks an incredibly complex internal conflict.
Oh yeah, the lone wolf aspect.
Right. Her core driving question throughout her evolution as a character is the climb worth it if I climb alone?
Which completely reframes her entire motivation. It isn't just about winning the race.
It gives her profound emotional depth. She begins her journey as this hyper-independent lone wolf climber who views other people as liabilities.
Because if they can't keep up with her pace, they'll just slow her down or get her killed.
Exactly. But as she evolves, she doesn't artificially become this bubbly, extroverted team player. That wouldn't make sense.
Right.
Instead, she becomes a deeply perceptive leader who reads people through their effort and their struggle.
She starts to respect the attempt.
Yes. She begins to view her team not as baggage, but as parts of the engine. She learns to create momentum with her team rather than simply leaving them behind in the dust.
And that profound evolution brings us to how she operates at level 12.
The late game scale.
Yeah, we jump forward in her timeline and we see how this concept of momentum scales. Because at level 5, she was fast.
Very fast.
But at level 12, she becomes, quite literally, inevitable.
The scaling of her capabilities here is terrifyingly effective because it doubles down on her foundational philosophy rather than just tacking on random new magical abilities.
Yeah, let's look at this high-level arsenal. First, she takes the alert feat.
Which provides a massive numerical bonus to her initiative.
Right, meaning she can effectively never be surprised by an ambush.
Never.
And you combine that with her level 7 biological feature, Feral Instinct, which grants advantage on those initiative rolls.
And the document points out, Feral Instinct isn't just a magical buff.
Yo.
It's an evolved biological adrenaline response. Her nervous system reacts to environmental threats before conscious thought even forms in her brain.
So she dictates the start of the fight, always.
She moves before the enemy even fully realizes they have chosen to engage.
Wow. And then you factor in her specialized gear. She has boots of speed to double her already massive movement rate.
A magically enhanced polearm for reach.
And critically, a ring of free action.
Oh, that item is huge for her.
It's essentially the ultimate momentum preserver. The physical reality of this ring means magical paralysis or environmental restraints simply shatter around her.
So if a wizard tries to alter the temporal space around her, or magically anchor her muscles to the ground,
the spell just fizzles. You cannot chemically, physically, or magically slow her down.
she is an unstoppable force.
But looking at her level 11 feature, I really need to challenge this part of the design.
Okay, what is it?
It's called Relentless Rage.
Ah, yes.
The mechanic dictates that if she drops to 0 hit points, meaning if she takes a lethal catastrophic blow, she rolls a constitution saving throw.
Right.
And if successful, she just refuses to fall down, remaining at exactly 1 single hit point.
Yep.
But from a tactical resource management perspective, hovering at 1 hit point in the middle of a massive melee seems wildly irresponsible.
That sounds like it, yeah.
Doesn't this ability actively encourage suicidal plays? Like, why not retreat, heal up, and fight another day?
This raises an important question. Is it recklessness, or is it highly calculated psychological warfare?
Psychological warfare.
The analysis explains that she intentionally stays in these highly dangerous zones. She overextends deep into enemy territory precisely because she knows she can survive beyond expected mathematical limits.
Okay, so she knows her own limits.
The Constitution save in this context isn't a roll of the dice. It is testing the sheer limits of her biological endurance against catastrophic physical trauma. Her body effectively shuts down, but her sheer willpower forces her heart to beat one more time.
Man, the psychological impact of that on an enemy force has to be staggering.
Oh, absolutely.
Like, you strike a killing blow, a blow that has felled 100 other warriors, and this woman just stares back at you with a broken spear in her side and takes another step forward.
It completely breaks their morale.
It replaces their confidence with absolute terror.
And her dominance scales outside of combat as well.
Right.
Her level 6 Elk feature actually doubles the travel pace of her entire party during overland travel.
Oh, wow. So she literally speeds up the whole group.
Yes, and her level 10 feature, Spirit Walker, grants her deep environmental and terrain intelligence.
So she isn't just finding a narrow path for herself anymore.
No, she is the undisputed expedition leader dictating the macro movement of everyone around her. Her philosophy expands to, if a path exists, I find it. If it doesn't, I make it.
To truly understand how all of these elements synthesize the mechanics, the role play, the psychological warfare, we really have to look at the climactic scene provided in the design document.
The broken ascent.
Yes, the broken ascent. It serves as this character's ultimate thesis statement put into actual practice.
The tactical gridlock in this scene perfectly isolates why her specific brand of momentum is absolutely required.
It is so tense. I mean, picture this. A shattered, windswept mountain pass. There is a narrow, crumbling cliffside path with a sheer 200-foot drop to jagged rocks below.
A nightmare scenario.
Total nightmare. And a heavily armored enemy warband has completely blockaded the only route forward.
Right.
They have archers positioned securely on the high ground. They have a spellcaster heavily protected behind a wall of frontline shield bearers.
And Val's party is completely pinned down.
Exactly. The wizard cannot get a clear line of sight to cast. The rogue has absolutely no room to flank without falling off the cliff. And the cleric's defensive magic is buckling under the pressure.
Lethal indecision is setting in.
Yeah, if nothing changes, the party will simply be worn down by attrition and die on this rock.
It is the ultimate manifestation of stagnation. The enemy has forced them to stop moving, which means the enemy has already won.
Exactly. Everyone in the party is agonizing over a plan, debating whether they should try to retreat down the treacherous path.
Paralyzed by the INT8 dilemma.
Right. But Val does not give a motivational speech. She doesn't ask for opinions. She evaluates the structural integrity of the enemy formation, spots a microscopic seam near the deadly cliff edge, and says a single command to her party.
Left side. Move when I break it.
Left side. Move when I break it. Because of her hyper-evolved nervous system and the alert feat, she wins the initiative.
She dictates the reality of the
She
moment.
rages. The Elk Totem triggers her speed, and she doesn't charge straight into the impenetrable meat shield at the front.
No, she angles her approach.
She sprints dangerously along the very edge of the 200-foot drop, literally treating a lethal hazard as a speedway.
Arrows are raining down, but with her mobile feet and her blistering velocity, they just can't pin her down.
She bypasses the frontline tanks entirely and throws herself into the tiny gap between two weaker supporting soldiers.
The momentum loop perfectly realized.
Yeah.
Engage, strike, reposition.
Yes.
She is in the back line before the enemy vanguard even realizes their flank has been compromised.
And she uses her first massive strike not simply to deal physical trauma, but as a kinetic shoulder check.
Oh, this part is amazing.
She slams one of the weaker soldiers right off the edge of the cliff into the abyss. The formation violently cracks. The enemy hesitates in shock.
And because she has never stopped moving, she is suddenly standing right in the enemy spellcaster's face.
She lands her second devastating hit, completely shattering the caster's concentration and dropping the magical suppression on her team.
And that is the exact moment the battle is decided.
Oh.
By breaking the structural integrity of the line and removing the spellcaster's pressure, she provided her team with the one thing they desperately needed. Exactly, a path. The rogue immediately slips through the chaotic gap she opened. The wizard finally has a clear line of sight and detonates a massive spell on the clustered archers.
But Val is now isolated, deep in enemy territory, absorbing the concentrated fury of the surviving forces.
She's taking massive, bone-crushing hits.
Her vitality is plummeting, but she refuses to retreat because if she steps back, the enemy line reforms and the choke point closes again.
Right.
She takes a lethal, catastrophic blow from an enemy commander. She hits 0 hit points.
The battlefield goes silent as she slumps.
And then relentless rage triggers. Her biology refuses to accept the math of her own death. She forces herself to remain standing. She takes one more terrifying step forward, lands one final brutal strike, and the last piece of enemy resistance shatters.
It is a breathtaking sequence because it flawlessly synthesizes all three pillars of role-playing into a single fluid action.
It really does.
It is combat, undeniably, because she breaks the enemy line and assassinates the priority target. But it is equally exploration, because she utilized the treacherous cliff edge, the very environmental hazard that terrified her allies, as her own personal flanking route.
Yep.
And it is entirely social, because she commanded her team not with a grand, charismatic 10-minute speech, but with minimal words and absolute decisive forward action.
After the dust settles, the enemy is broken, and the wind is just howling through the mountain pass. Her party is standing safely behind her.
And if anyone were to ask her how she calculated that impossible maneuver,
Her final quote perfectly encapsulates her entire existence. There was a path, you just had to take it.
it is the ultimate expression of forward inevitability.
Think about the sheer brilliance of tying every single mechanical number, every biological trait, and every inventory item to one unifying philosophy.
It's masterful design.
It really makes you reflect on how you handle your own real-life projects or goals. Like, are you trapped in the overcomplication of things?
Are you agonizing over the perfect conditions?
Yeah, essentially violating Val's INT8 philosophy by letting overanalysis paralyze your ability to act. Or are you simply looking for the very next solid foothold on the mountain, trusting your forward momentum to generate your balance and carry you through the chaos?
Then that leaves us with one final, lingering question to consider.
Let's hear it.
If your entire identity, your entire physiological reality, is defined by the climb, if every obstacle, every person, and every problem is just terrain to outpace and conquer what happens when you finally reach the summit.
Oh, wow.
When there are no mountains left to conquer, does the relentless wind finally stop, or does it turn into a hurricane?
We will let you chew on that one. Thank you for diving into these sources with us and exploring the architecture of such a relentless mind. Until next time, don't overthink the variables, just keep moving forward. Catch you on the next deep dive.